Was that good enough? Should we try it again? Maybe? Okay, let's try it again. Good morning. Oh, that's so much better. I knew y'all were. You knew you had it in you. Okay, so I have a question for you. Are you ready? Who's your neighbor? Okay, your sister's your neighbor? Or are you just pushing her for fun? Sister's your neighbor? Who else? Who might be your neighbor? Camberry? So maybe somebody sitting next to you? So, the person down the street? That person is your neighbor? Can anybody else be your neighbor? Who? Your friend can be your neighbor. What about the person you pass at the grocery store? Is that your neighbor? Okay. What about the person you go to church with? Your church neighbor. Okay, yes. What about the person that doesn't go to church with you? Is that your neighbor? Say that again. Everybody is mostly your neighbor. You know what? I think you may be onto something. I think you may be. So, what makes somebody your neighbor? Okay, if they're in your family, they can be your neighbor. But what makes, this is a tough question. I'm making you think. How about I tell you one of Jesus's parables, and we can figure out together what makes somebody your neighbor. Is that okay? Okay. I'm going to tell you the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I'm going to read it. I'm not reading it from the Bible because obviously I have it on a piece of paper, but I'm reading word for word from the Bible. An expert in the law asked Jesus who was his neighbor. And Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. That's awful, isn't it? That's awful. So a priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he went over to the other side of the road. He passed on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, he passed on the other side of the road. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, which is one way that they help take care of people during the Bible. The next day, I missed a line. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii, which is their money, and gave it to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. So then Jesus asked the expert of the law, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus said, go and do likewise. So who was the neighbor in this parable? The Good Samaritan. It was the one who was kind and took care of the man. And so instead of thinking, who is our neighbor? I have a different question for you. Can we start thinking about who we can be a good neighbor to? So, are you my neighbor? I'm not, how about, can I be a good neighbor to you? What can I do to be a good neighbor to you? Who can we be kind to? Who can we take care of? So, who can we be kind to and take care of? I'm sorry? Anyone, everyone, right? So we can be a good neighbor to everyone. Exactly. we can be kind, we can take care of them, and we can always show everyone God's love. Do you think that's what Jesus wanted us to do when he was telling us this parable? And we can what? We can be a good neighbor to God. We can love God. Exactly. This is how we can be a good neighbor. We can be the good Samaritan. Are you guys ready to pray with me? Okay. All right, you ready? You're going to repeat after me. Dear God, help us be kind. Help us take care of others. Help us show everyone your love. Help us be a good neighbor. Amen. Okay, neighbors, you guys can head back to your pews.